Alright, it's running already, right? Okay, perfect. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Hello everyone, this is Corey with Camera Coach, and welcome to another episode of Full Frame with Corey. As I mentioned, my name is Corey Dunnigan. I am a photography teacher and a freelance photographer. I'm here just to talk about any and all things photography. So, today, specifically, I'll tell you the topic ahead of time, actually, because I usually do a little bit more first. We're going to talk about prime lenses. And so I did an episode a while back about prime lenses versus regular lenses. And so this is something that's really important to understanding photography and why these things might be important. So I've got a little demo that I'm going to do here. I'll talk through it here for those that are my audio audience. Interesting. Okay. And then I will be demoing and showing for those who have access to the video side of things. Okay. All right. So before I get into that, let me talk just a little bit more here about the episode and some more details, and then we'll dive in. Okay. So the episode is again about photography, and a new episode drops every Tuesday, so it's weekly, and it is specifically just about any and all things photography. So this time it's going to be about some photo gear. Other times it'll be about just concepts maybe, or things that we can do to get better. I might do some interviews here and there, so it's really just all it covers a broad spectrum. Okay, and so anyways, let's dive into a little bit more detail about myself. So I am a teacher. I'm going to say a former teacher. I'm not teaching in the classroom as of right now, but I am a certified teacher with 15 years of experience. And my business is Camera Coach. I do photography, so sports products, events, and headshots in studio, that sort of thing. But also I do services to help people get better at photography. So whether that means learning to use their camera, get it out of automatic and into manual, and all those sort of things, or just some of the basics like composition or lighting. And so there are workshops, there are classes, there are other things. This podcast is another example of my photo education sort of focus. Okay, and so photography and photo education, that's what Camera Coach is about. It is based here in Waco, Texas, and so that's where I live. Formerly, I'm from Houston, came to Waco to go to Baylor University, graduated, second Bears, and then started teaching and got into photography as well. So Waco now is my home, but that's just kind of also where the home of Camera Coach is too. Shout outs and really just shout outs to those that have been really crucial in helping get this podcast off the ground. So it's been about 6 months now. Rogue Media Network is the place where I come in, I get a chance to record. They help me with my publications and all that sort of thing. And then also my Patreon supporters, Mandy, Kenan, LaShonda, and Corey. They are the ones who are financially helping and supporting a little bit. And so just want to say thank you to them. There's more information about how you can also support and join in with the Patreon supporters later. All right, so again, the topic is prime lenses. And so today I have a special guest here on the table. I say a special guest, it's not really a person, but it's some gear, okay? And so the special guest here, it's a Nikon Z50 mirrorless camera with the native Z lens 40mm f2. So hopefully that's not just sounding really strange to you if you know a little bit about how to read lenses and that sort of thing, what it's telling you, right? So the F talks about the aperture range, and then the millimeter talks about the focal length, and so kind of really how much is in frame, okay? And so I'm not going to go too far into this. Just want to really talk a little bit about prime lenses and why they're important. So a prime lens is a lens that is fixed focal length, okay? So that means this is a 40mm lens. It is not zoom. It will not change for you. If you want a tighter frame, you want to get closer, that means you're going to walk yourself closer and then take your picture. If you need to get a wider shot, well then you're going to back it up, and then take your picture. Okay, so it is, I'd say, really the one thing about a prime lens, which in its definition, that's what it is. It's a fixed focal length lens. That is kind of the bad thing about it, really, because the qualities of the lens are amazing, but then you have that limitation of not being able to zoom. Okay, and so Now, we'll talk a little bit more about some other options with lenses later, but right now we're talking about just prime lenses. All right, and so this is a 40 millimeter, very close to 50 millimeter, which is considered kind of the normal focal length, like how we see things normally. Okay, and so, how does it differ? What's the difference here, right? I have the other native, not native, but the other kit lens, if you will, the lens that came with the Z50, which is basically just it's a 16 to 50 millimeter, and the aperture range starts at 3.5. So 3.5 to 6.3 is what it has on the lens. And so what that means primarily is that this aperture of f2 is the largest opening that lens will allow, but the one that came with the Z50, the largest it will allow is a 3.5, okay, and so f3.5, which is about basically twice the size, okay, and so that means that you're cutting out about half as much of light. So there's a lot of math involved with lenses, and so I'm telling you kind of what it means in words, but I will show you in pictures once this is over, okay? And so basically what this means is this lens here with the f3.5 will only let in about half as much light as the f2 at the 40 millimeters. And the weird thing about these that you have to learn, unless someone tells you up front, it's an aperture range. That f3.5 you don't get all the way through as you zoom, okay? And so this one, it'll start off at 3.5 when it's wide, when you're zoomed all the way out at 16. And then, as you zoom into the 50, then that aperture range, the smaller number, the smallest range it'll give you, is actually going to go up to 6.3. So if I shoot at 50 millimeters on this, then 6.3 is actually the smallest aperture range that I can get, okay? And so that's really not very helpful for low light stuff. I do a lot of sports. I'm sitting in a studio that has some lights, but it's really not that great when it comes to trying to have like really, really good lighting for videography, if you will, right? And that sort of thing. And so what I'll do is I'm going to take pictures with both of these lenses at 40 millimeters with their largest aperture. So this one will be f2, and this one will be somewhere probably around f5, something like that, and just the same shutter speed and the same ISO. Shutter speed is just how long the exposure takes, okay? So that's like the clicking that you hear is when it's taking the picture, okay? And so when it takes the picture, it's a fraction of a second. So I'll go ahead and set it here. I'm going to shoot at, we'll just make it 1/100th of a second, okay? So that's not going to change. Then my ISO is going to be at 800, and I'm going to take the lens cap off, of course. And that's, oh, there we go, and it just ran away from me. And that's not going to change. So I have a camera here, my camera that's recording video, and I'm just going to do a quick shot of that with the f2. Okay, and so I'm going to set it all the way down to f2, and then take that shot. So there we go. Okay, so I just got a shot of my main camera here, and that's with an f2 shutter speed 1/100, ISO 800. I'm going to turn it off real quick. Change the lens. Great thing about the Z50 is how small and compact it is. Very easy to take with you, and very easy to switch lenses and that sort of thing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get this off. There we go. Okay, so I've changed things up, and I'm just going to set my 40 millimeter off to the side there. And same shot. There we go. And we're going to set it right at about 40 millimeters. Right there. Okay, I've got my shutter speed at 1/100, ISO is 800, and the smallest aperture is going to give me is f5.6. So I'm going to take that shot, and I'll include both of those in a post so you can see the difference. And it's a significant difference. I mean, you're talking about really 3 times the amount of light there. So if you go, you kind of round it, right? So because it is math, you got f2, and then you have just about f6, right? And so That really is a fraction. If you look at how it's written, it's f/fraction, so it stands for focal length divided by that number. And so, yeah, so you're looking at a significant difference there. And so at 40 millimeters, the amount of light that one lens lets in versus the other is kind of why people tell you, hey, a prime lens is what you want to get if you want to get serious about photography, because it gives you a greater range and more flexibility, more creative options as well. And so that's something that you kind of get into when you're doing the low light stuff and the big aperture, where you kind of get the bokeh effect with the blur. So quite honestly, that's the end of this episode. That's all I'm here to talk about is the prime lens and why it's so important. So people use a prime lens for sports. Obviously, you can't use a flash when you're doing indoor sports. So volleyball, basketball, those sort of things. You can actually get kicked out, for flash photography in some of these things, some of those games, or the team gets penalized. They actually, it's a real thing, and so you have to kind of know what you need for that type of field, and so that's why people will tell you photography is not cheap, because prime lenses are not very, very cheap. So I would say that you're looking for just a small prime lens. If you're looking for a 50 millimeter, 35 millimeter, something like that, or even this 40 millimeter here for the Z50, it's a few $100s for those, and it goes up very quickly from there. I've got an 85 millimeter that I use on my D 7500, and that guy, those run about 500-600, somewhere around there. And then you get into the other ones that will zoom that have a wide aperture, a fixed aperture, and those you're really into some money there, which is what you see whenever you're watching TV and you have those guys that you see on the sideline or on the field, taking pictures and stuff. It's all big aperture lenses. All right, so there you go. That's kind of what I was focusing on here for today. I'm going to wrap this up here, keep it really short and to the point here. If you have questions about prime lenses, or maybe which one would be recommended, then send a quick comment, on social media, something like that. Ask us a question. You can also actually even text us. So you can text me, I say us. You can text me at 254-307-7469. Give us a little time to respond, but we can actually just help you out if you're looking for things. And there will be a website with some information about prime lenses and some links for some of the more popular lenses as well. All right, so just kind of jump into a little bit here that I'd like to just throw out there for you as far as ways that you can connect with us. You can follow us and share and all those things on social media, Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook is Photo Camera Coach, kind of like the website, photocameracoach.com. And the Instagram is camera.coach. Okay, and so that's kind of what you can do if you're into social media. If you're not into social media, there is also another platform called Patreon that I mentioned earlier. That is a subscription-based thing where you can support the content creator. And so it's got different levels. They start at $5 a month, and those different levels will get different sort of behind-the-scenes stuff, or maybe the video that I'm recording as well. And so you can kind of look into that. There's an option to even sponsor the podcast, where if you want your business name, your business logo on a title image, then that's an option as well. So that is a way to support us. So follow, support, and also learn with us. So I mentioned that the training side of things is something we focus on. It is going to be a big focus in 2023, and so one thing that's really, really kicking off these first couple of months, January, February, is private training. And so in person and virtual. That is something that is kind of in the works right now. I've got a few people that I'm testing it out with and just working out all the kinks. So I'm looking for individual and small group lessons, along with an actual private training program for those that are really wanting to accelerate their learning process and potentially start making money off of photography. So more information about that as we go along. Check the website, check social media. Again, the website is photocameracoach.com. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. Going to sign off. Hope you guys have an amazing day. This is Corey, signing off. Bye. $15 minutes? Yeah.